record. And what's going on here? Come on, there we go.
To hand off the baton passing, if you will. So we're looking forward to that, and I'm really excited about what these new items, what these new activities bring to us. So just the influx of right now being virtual, the how that has shaped not only because of the pandemic, we had to get creative, but it was still something that we noticed was a way that we had to go, a direction that was becoming influential in the art field itself. You saw a lot of the up and coming artists beginning to really utilize Instagram and the social media platforms to be able to have a wider reach. And as an art gallery, we had to also kind of begin to move in that direction. So, we're happy to finally take that official leap, if you will, and kind of put a lot of energy towards that. We have Amber Lewis now that works with us and does our coordination for social
Amber's
media. So
great.
we're
Hi,
really
Amber.
happy. Yeah, we're really happy to have her on board and doing that. We really feel like she'll get that job done. Art has been something, and I'm kind of jumping back now when you went into the
Yeah. So
tell us about yourself.
yeah. So you're talking Instagram and all this new stuff, which is, I mean, everything's always the world's always changing, and then it's certainly changed a lot in the last 6 months.
Right.
But it's changed since when? So 1981, when your mom and dad started the gallery. Is that right?
Yeah, so 81 we've started, so we'll celebrate our 40th anniversary next year. So we will definitely be rolling out some wonderful activities for people to join in with us. We really would like to kind of exercise. We have a lot of archival information. That's one of the things that makes us very unique, is that because we have been in this since 81, we have been I like to call it the pioneers in regards to making sure that African American artists of color, have a platform in the fine art world. We specialize in abstract contemporary art, and we have had the honor and the pleasure to actually cultivate a lot of the abstract masters that you see today and hear of today. And so that that 40th anniversary will be kind of like a celebration
Yes.
in of that, if you will.
40
Give us
years. I
ash.
mean, any small business is amazing, and then add to it an art business in a Detroit art business and a Black-owned
Yeah,
business. I mean, that is going to be an amazing celebration. And kudos to you and your family for sticking with it all these years,
thank you.
and for being such a leader and important part of the community as well. Could you tell us a little bit about your dad and how he came, into art, and what made him want to start the gallery in the first place?
hmm So my dad actually is was child psychologist trained,
So not an
and
art,
he
not an artist, not an art. I mean, he didn't get. I
well
think a lot of people.
he will say you know he had a painting that was at the Charles that was at the Charles Wright, so the Charles Wright Museum. So he will try to add a
He's an
little
artist.
artist
It's just maybe
component
not
to
his
himself.
lead. He's not his the what
Right.
he his lead skill set. Is that what you're trying to say? Are you s-
I don't know. I don't know. He's behind me. I don't know.
so he
No.
does obviously a love for art,
Yeah,
passion
yeah,
for art,
definitely a love for art. And so
but
really what okay, so what it's a very it's a, that's a kind of a unique story there. So he actually started collecting art. That was first what kind of moved him into the art thing. So he started collecting in college. This is around 67, 68. And I really want to say 68. That's when he did his collector thing. Okay. Went to school for child psychology, became a child psychologist, worked in that profession. During that time, or prior to that, this is why he was getting his doctorate um, out in Ann Arbor. During that time, that's when we actually, like, my second oldest sister had passed, so my parents decided to start a school in her memory, to like in a spiritual way, or
yeah.
spiritual and physical being to be here. So the school was that, channeling sorrow, if you will, and they knew that they wanted to teach their children. So it was like, okay, that's a good fit. Now she's here with us physically and able to grow with the rest of the children, right? Okay, so during that time, that's when he was doing this practice, and doing the child psychology, right? And one day it was just like, okay, I need to do what I love. He's always been a champion of do what you love. And then he started the gallery in '81 and just went forward from there. So he's really like that story of the collector, the doctor who's a collector becomes the art dealer just out of the love of art. He's that. And then the other piece that is also very important, and this has been kind of like the foundation, if you will, is that he always had that view that art is also, it's a mental health thing. So in terms of the mental health, the quality of the emotional state of your community is very much so influenced by their exposure, their experience, their accessibility to art. Okay, so that's one of those things where we always wanted to, we were always a pillar and always a champion of ensuring that there was going to be an art space within the city. Okay, and eventually, so '81 we started there, and when I say started there, that we were in Harmony Park. That was where Intermessos was, then the Detroit Fish Market. I don't know what's going. I forget what's going in there now. They have some development plans, but that was the original space. And then we moved over to the David Whitney building, and then from there, we had moved out to Birmingham.
A second
We were on
location. You had a second
the,
location out there.
Birmingham. No, well, for a period, it
Yeah.
was the two. So it was the
Yeah.
Detroit and the David Whitney building, and then also Birmingham. Okay. Then after a while, it was just like, let's just go with Birmingham. And then during that time, we did a stint with having one in Columbus, and then we opened one in Chicago, and then in New York. Chicago and New York ran simultaneously for a moment, but Chicago was our longest running, out geographically outside of Michigan. We actually closed that one about maybe about 4 years ago now, and then I want to say it was around was it 2000? You know, the years start merging for you. Okay.
I remember that. I know. Oh, that was just
So,
the '90s were like 5 years ago. I mean,
right. So it was around 2000. We purchased our location now. So we purchased the building. So when we talk about that mental health, right? So when we identified these places, okay, it's just share the screen.
yeah.
So when we identified these places, so yeah, that's the building there. When we were identifying our locations, we always kind of looked at that from a development standpoint. How do we infuse the city? I mean, with this particular community that we're operating in with that art pop, right? And so when we moved down here, this Midtown was not even heard of. It was, the university. It was UCCA. You know what I mean? It
The
was just like
University
people,
Cultural Center
cultural
Association.
association, right?
I mean, it was still Sue Mosey. It just had a different name.
Exactly. And in Gia, and so it's one of those things where we just knew we needed it, and people thought we were nuts. They were like, I can't believe you're leaving Birmingham, you're going down there like that. Like, really, you're gonna do that? And it's like, yeah, really, we are. And so, and the thing is, if you didn't make that move, we would probably, in the way the city is today, you probably would have missed out. You would have missed out on that prime property and that ability to really put your mission in an excellent, location. And
And so
so we moved. I'm listening.
this building, so the building you're in front of and that we have, so this is a picture that we're showing of, obviously, of your dad and that
Correct.
infectious smile that he has. And his hat, his signature style with the hat that he wears all the time too. You can't miss him around town. And then this is the building that you were talking about that you're in
Correct.
too, that has the gallery, which we're going to go inside of in a little bit. But
Mhm.
also, I mean, it's not a small building. It also has Ciudad in it and other spaces as well. Tell us a little bit about the
Yeah, we
building.
got a music lounge. Pardon?
Yeah. just the building itself. Music lounge, right? Is that the Griot
Yep,
Music Lounge?
yep, yep. And so we really, the goal was not just be a gallery, extend your art reach, and make it make a campus out of it. And so that was where not only did we purchase the building, we also went into developing this particular area, which is now the historical Sugar Hill Arts District. So what you will find when you're over here, we did that with Zachary and Associates, who are development partners over here. So what you'll find in the Sugar Hill Arts District is that it's like a cluster, a medley of different art activities, pottery classes, music lounges we mentioned, even the culinary, So those are all, this is like a gambit of things, just like a mixture
So I'm
of,
just Yeah, I'm just
go
pulling
ahead,
up
I'm
a
listening.
map right now so people can kind of see where the Nnamdi Center is and this
Yes,
Sugar Hill district that you're talking about. So you can see everyone, the Nnamdi Center is right here in the center. We are in,
yep,
just to give you people context, here's downtown, here's
yep,
what's now known as Midtown, but I also say it's still the Cass Corridor. It's all of the above.
that's right.
And then here on Forest, we're gonna zoom in and you can see where the Nnamdi Center is. And Sava, Detroit is there. The Museum of
Correct,
Contemporary Art is just around the corner. You have this
correct,
building here, 71 Garfield, which has Socrates. And
correct.
I didn't know
That's the
Modern was,
pottery class too.
yeah, and the
Pardon?
pottery place in there as well. Zachary Associates, Ernie's got his space there, and there's a lot of other plans, right? And then this is just some photos of the actual gallery, but I like to show, like, I like, the it's event space, right? I mean, it's really been a
Yeah.
community center. You've had events, speakers, dance classes, right?
Yes.
And all of this
Yes.
was going on obviously until COVID hit, right? And so
Right.
tell me a little bit about how COVID changed things, and then we'll get into the exhibit that is coming back,
hmm
post COVID now, or not post COVID, but with pivoting with COVID.
I got you. And so with COVID, if we really had to suspend our dance classes, our indoor dance class at the moment. We're trying to take advantage of the remainder of this wonderful weather that we've been experiencing here in Michigan, and we're hoping to do. We're hoping to roll out, I should say, our outdoor dance schedule, which we're targeting to Clark Park. We're working with as a partnership with the Detroit Pistons and with the Rec Department, and we're partnering to activate spaces. And so, that's where we're looking to now have our outdoor dance classes because people do want that physical outlet. But we
Yeah.
want to just make sure we're providing that to them in a very health and safe way. And we figured right now, let's take advantage of the outdoors and let's be out there with that.
So when you closed, when COVID, took over, but then you started doing just by appointment showings and doing some more stuff online. So what have you been
But
doing in the interim? You started talking about that at
yeah,
the beginning.
no, I'm with you. So we're still our webpage is still under construction, if you will, because we're trying to get it so that there's some interactive activity that you can do with the exhibitions that you're seeing, the past exhibitions, current exhibitions, and then also wanting to kind of add our abstract music concert series so that people can have some concerts to go to.
Yeah.
And so it's really been more of a maintenance. We've been at a maintenance stage, right? Developing the content that has to be changed now for the webpage, that sort of thing. Okay, like I mentioned earlier, the social media, kind of going into what is that strategy. So we've been in that phase with it. Now is the execution phase, right? And now we're with the like dance classes, as I mentioned, outdoor. With some of the indoor, the speaking engagements, we decided we're just going to let that go ahead and be a virtual thing. In some cases, though, however, we may find that we can have a mini conversation, like more of a, you think about what it's just like maybe 5 people. You basically call it round table, but at
Right.
the same time, you don't want 5 people at the table. So
A big table, a spread out
Right.
table. Everyone
Right.
gets their own table.
Right.
Round tables, plural, right? Just kind of a
Right.
series of round tables in a circle. And then that would be a good way to do it.
Yeah.
I think
Right.
I'm just always amazed. We talk about the Nnamdi Center on all of our tours. We'd be driving down Woodward, and we'd be like,
Yeah.
and over here, you have the historic First Congregational Church, which is a stop on the Underground Railroad,
Mm.
and the Nnamdi Center, and I always make a joke about like the Checker, like it's like
Well,
look over
Checkers
there,
isn't
isn't
here
that
anymore.
awesome?
They didn't survive. Checkers
Oh,
didn't survive the pandemic. No.
oh, well, that's maybe not a bad thing. I don't know. Like it's. I mean, just to have that space on Woodward, and would be, if it could be incorporated into the Sugar Hill Arts District, and how cool would that be? But anyway, there's a lot of people are like, well, I might have heard about the Nnamdi Center, but maybe hadn't actually had a chance to go.
Mm-hmm.
And then to know that there's all the other pieces and all the other. I mean, that's what's so great is there's a lot of times galleries. I mean, and art is wonderful and it's needed, but what you guys have done to add all these other pieces to it, the
Mm-hmm.
conversations, the dance classes, the music lounge, is really
Mm-hmm.
is what it's in its name.
We've
It's a
done
center.
theater. We've done
Yeah.
concerts.
And
We've done poetry. We do any form of art.
so awesome.
We do
Well,
it.
and it really is a center and not just a gallery. That's why you guys, and really quick, tell me where what the name or where the word Nnamdi comes from and what that means.
And Nnamdi is actually Nigerian. It's a Nigerian name, and it means father's name lives on. And my parents, when they traced their lineage, it was followed back to West Africa. And because my father was named after his dad, he wanted to kind of pay homage to him in terms of saying this is not a disrespectful change to you, because the father's name lives on. He's still George.
That's beautiful. So let's go inside and let's talk about well, first of all, set up. So now you are about to reopen, and this is the first new exhibit since COVID started.
Correct. So essentially, we're reopening, but we're not reopening in the same way. It's a new style of reopening.
Absolutely.
So, for example, it's appointments only. And you'll be able to go online to Eventbrite to pick your slot or your time that you want to go to. We don't allow more than 20 persons per hour when we're having events. So, like the opening that's going to be tomorrow, we have 4 slots, and you register for that slot, and it's only 20.
Yeah.
And
And
if
it's
it's full, it's
free.
full.
I mean,
It
you have
is
to
free.
register, and there's a ticket, and that link is on Detroit Experience Factory's Facebook page. We posted it,
Yeah.
just earlier, and so it's still free, but you need to be able to have that management of the amount of people. So
Yes, because everyone wants to, people want to get out. So again, going back to and supporting our premise of the whole mental health piece, the emotional
mhm,
health, right now people really need activities that help them kind of make that adjustment into some sort of normalcy of life. And so, but the thing is, they also want to go to a venue and feel as if that venue is thinking about them.
absolutely.
And we see sometimes we see places that aren't really reflective of that thought process. And so we want to make sure, and I will say this, I think it's something, a commitment that the art community overall has made. Culture Source has been very strong in ensuring that they loop the art community together, so that we're not opening with you're doing this, you're doing that, da, 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 but we're opening with some sort of level of uniformity. So when you do want to come out and experience the arts, you already know. Let me sign up on this day so you can make your appointments and have a whole
Right.
nice art tour. Okay,
Yeah.
so let's go in, and I'll kind of show you the inside.
Okay.
But you had a question? I
Well,
see
I
you
was
want to
gonna
say
say
something like
so it's reopening with an exhibit, and
milk.
so do a little quick about who we're gonna talk to next.
Okay, so yes, we're reopening, and we're reopening with one of my favorite artists, Bel Rosas, Detalius. Did I pronounce it right? I'm not a Spanish speaker, so
Detalles,
but
yeah.
that's the name. but that's the name of the exhibition. I was going to kind of speak to it, but I just felt like, why not have him here to be able to
Yeah.
speak to everyone? I mean, he's a, very depth. There's a lot of depth to his paintings. And sometimes when you're able to get that from the artist, I think it's even better.
Absolutely. It's so amazing. It's just like with this, you're, talking with people, like people might have been to the Nnamdi Center, but not really heard the backstory or heard from you about it, right? And that's how we kind of see with a lot of our tours is it's not just some memorized facts. It's really about hearing from
Right.
people. And it's just like when you go hear from the artist, that you appreciate their work so much more. So it's so exciting. Thank you for arranging for this.
You're welcome. Let me put on my masks, practices. We got to do our, procedures.
Absolutely. Safety is, in all of this,
It's
like you said,
first.
people who really, if you know the organization, if the establishment cares, you feel much more comfortable.
Exactly. Okay, hold on just 1 second. I'm about to pass you off. And so I'm going to turn around now so you can see the main gallery there.
Yeah.
You see that?
So there's the main gallery, and we don't have to walk through all of it, but
No.
Or if you are walking through it, then yeah, give us.
I'm walking through a little bit.
Okay.
But the main gallery, let me just do this real quick though.
Yeah.
So I want to just tell you these artists and I'm going to pass it to Rosa. So the main gallery has 4 artists that we're showcasing. The exhibition is Take 5. So right here, what you're seeing is the works of Alicia Brown. She's a Jamaican artist, and she focuses on the British colonization within Jamaica and how that affects. So you're going to see a lot of symbolisms within her work. You have to pick it up. The sugar cane, because of cane plantations. You're going to have it's like a lot of things. She's really deep and really good. Then right here, we have Jean Marcel St. Jacques. He is from Louisiana. He actually does what you call wooden quilts. So he takes the reclaimed wood from your hurricanes, et cetera, that take place down in Louisiana, and he weaves them together to create the wooden quilts. So it's kind of like when you're doing your cloth quilts, you take those pieces of fabric from your family, but this one is you're using the houses of those families.
Wow.
And you're doing them. Yeah, it's beautiful.
Yeah.
This is Anita Bates, Detroit artist. And there you go. I have to make sure I got it right. And hers is more about the spiritual journey, okay? Kind of moving, going into yourself and birthing, kind of becoming born, if you will. Okay. Very good. This is a new, let me see. There you go. This is a new style, the size canvas, etc. So this one right here is called Speaking in Tongues. So it's kind of like, that's how you sometimes when you're going through that transition, you just talking.
It's pure emotional. There's no, right. It's not logical brain anymore. It's
exactly. Now this one right here, this is, and this is Jocelyn. This is Jocelyn Rainey, another Detroit artist, and hers too. Again, is about the spirit, but it's more of a remembering places where you were, remembering your journey from that angle. So it's like, where were you when I discovered? You know what I mean? And so that's what you're seeing with her pieces here. So all of these are wonderful. We really are pleased with this exhibition. It's an exhibition that ran our our winter, spring season, but due to COVID, it just kind of stayed up through that time.
So
now
you expect it to stay up a little bit longer then?
Just a little bit longer. Yeah.
Okay. So people,
because we got to make that. And you got to make certain kind of arrangements when we talk about how you're destalling and then the shipments, the packing. Absolutely. It's like a whole thing that goes. It starts going.
We'll have to do a whole nother interview about just the behind the scenes work that people have no idea, that it takes the details it takes to put something together. And I think it's awesome. I mean, you had mentioned in a previous conversation about whether, a focus on artists of color has been a really big part of the Nnamdi Center's mission since it began. And so, and a diversity of people from all over as well, which is beautiful.
Yeah, because it's important, and we got to make sure if you don't preserve your history, who will, right? You have to be your barrier. Like I'm an Aquarian, so the water barrier, I carry it. You got to carry it. You got to keep it.
Yeah.
So now I have the great pleasure of signing on, Rosas, and I'm going to give him the phone so we can see his exhibition. So now he is the opening exhibition, which is located in our Rose Gallery. So you'll see it. He's going to be able to go in and out with you on the pictures because they're small.
Yeah.
4x6, but they're like the smallest, biggest painting you've ever experienced. They are. They really
So
are.
excited. Thank you so much, Zay. We'll come back to you before we sign off, okay?
Okay, sounds good. There you go. You got it?
Yeah. Hi.
Hi, Mel. Thanks so much for taking the time to chat with us today.
Oh, you're quite welcome.
So tell us.
I gotta get the feel of this phone and the camera and stuff. So
Yeah.
okay,
Well,
I think I got it.
Tell us a little bit about yourself. I always say, what's your 2-minute life story? And then we'll get into the art.
Well, just a little background of how I wound up here in Detroit. I came to Detroit in 1976. I was 26 years old, and I came to take a job at Wayne State University, and been here ever since. So I've lived really a majority of my life here in Detroit. I came to teach drawing and eventually started teaching drawing and painting. And when I got to Detroit, I was continuing with a body of work that was based in urban subject matter, which I started to develop in Philadelphia when I went to school in Philadelphia at Tyler School of Art. And then I got here and continued that for a while. And I think there's still a little bit of Detroit in these, even though the color is quite different. Some of the subject matter is quite different. There's still that sense of the urban condition in so many of these little works here that fascinate me. So for many years now, probably starting way back, maybe mid-'80s, I've been exploring ideas that relate to Latino culture. My dad came from Panama to the United States in the mid-'40s to be a foreign student at Drake University in Des Moines, Iowa, of all places. And met my mother, an American girl, and he just stayed. Okay, so try to make a long story short, for many years I tried to just deny that side of my ethnicity because I was trying desperately to fit into Iowa, which was very, very, how should I say, ethnically homogenous, especially back in the 50s and 60s. But over time, I started to develop an understanding and an appreciation and an awareness that I was actually sensitive to my dad's culture. So many things about my dad's culture and his fantastic stories that he told me when I was a kid from his childhood, the rhythm, the color of Latin America, the language, the customs, the way of life, the tropics. I love hot weather. And so from the first time I went to Panama in 1981, from that point forward, I started working with Latin American imagery and would travel and do research, my own form of research, where I'd take notes, take hundreds of photographs, talk to people, pick their brain, with the idea of coming back here then and composing an entire body of work from those experiences. So this show is a combination of images from Cuba, from Panama. Let's see, where else? There's a couple from Peru, and that's it. But yeah, so that's been my process for many years now, since sometime in the 80s.
That's beautiful. And you're in the Rose Gallery, and have you shown at Nnamdi Center before?
Yes, a couple of times.
Yeah, and well, Izegbe says that you're one of her favorite artists. And I think it's, also you're in the Rose Gallery and your last name is Rosa. So it's
that makes sense.
it makes
How
sense.
appropriate, right?
Right. Well, and here's a piece I'm going to just show that we have a picture of real quick, and then we can, so it can be nice and clear, and then we'll go around and look. So this is one I think you titled La Ciudad.
Yep.
Tell us a little bit about this piece.
Well, it's a combination of two images, the facade of the wall and then a skyline of Panama City. And so when this particular piece, this small painting, 4 by 6 inches, is a little different in the sense that I have combined two photos together, which is how I work with my larger pieces that I do. I usually combine several parts of various images together in one composition in an attempt to create sort of like an amalgam of various experiences all rolled into one, if that makes any sense.
Yeah. That's...
So this is kind of like an attempt to show the contrast between the older section of Panama and the newer section, which the skyline is probably, God, it's probably about 5 times the size of the Detroit skyline. People probably are not aware of that. It's a very big, booming city with a lot of traffic, a lot of commerce, and probably every bank that you can imagine from all over the world. So technically, my work is about exploration of paint, first and foremost. And the way I try to handle paint is that I work with a kind of what I call a spontaneous, a controlled spontaneity, whereby I apply paint with various tools, brushes, squeegees, palette knives, in an attempt to not only be spontaneous with the paint, but also create the illusion of whatever it is the image is. So if it's cracked or peeling paint, or a weathered wall, it represents that. But at the same time, when you look at the piece, what I'm hoping people see is the build of paint and the use of paint as well. And the paint itself has character within it, okay?
Well, and it's absolutely amazing. I mean, this is and we're going to see them on the wall, because when you see this, photo here on the screen, you don't really what size it is, right? But you mentioned it's a 4 by 6, and but the level of detail is absolutely mind blowing, and that's why the exhibit is called Los Detalles, yes.
Mm-hmm.
So, which means details, obviously, and so that's very evident here. Let's go and see some on the wall. That there are just a couple pieces maybe you want to highlight.
Going over here. Can you see that one? Mm-hmm. This one's called the hardware store. And sometimes what I like about Latin America is just exploring and observing things on walls, like signs and symbols, graffiti, these kind of primitive paintings that people do themselves just to sort of advertise their wares. And I think that's fascinating. Sometimes you can get a kind of an inner view of the culture if you just kind of pay attention to what's written on the wall, if that makes any sense. You can read what they're saying. And then some of these actually get rather abstract. That one's almost like an abstract painting. I've always loved the work of Richard Diebenkorn and how he just breaks up space. This one's called Man in Shadow. So every once in a while, there is a figure that creeps into the work. But the way I use the figure in my work is usually kind of indirect. Oops, I gotta go this way. Not real specific portraits per se, like Alicia in the other room. She's one of the artists that is part of the 5-person exhibition in the main gallery. She's very much a figurative artist per se, where she deals with the figure very directly. This one's just called Man in Shadows. This one's called El Viejo, the old guy, or Anciano is another word for an old person, the ancient one. And let's see.
So
one of my favorites.
Just a question.
One of my favorites is.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
So you would take photos. So you'd go to the places you mentioned, and then you take photos and then use those to, to paint. Are they pretty close to the photo, or no, you really just use the photo as inspiration?
Um, it depends. Sometimes it can be quite close. Sometimes I'll edit things out that are unnecessary. Sometimes I will add things that are related to the photo to get the idea to come across a little bit easier. This one was one of my favorites. It's pretty much an image that was the way it was in nature. And it's from Cuba, from Havana, and the title is Hierbas Curativas. So in Cuba, you have a lot of Catholicism, of course, but also the ancient African religion in Cuba is called Santeria, and they practice Santeria pretty widely throughout Cuba. And so this was a Santeria shop where you can go and buy curing herbs for whatever ails you. And it's part of an old section that's really quite colorful in Havana. It's an alley, essentially, and I cannot remember the name of that alley, but they have performances there. There's one particular artist whose work you see throughout. He's done murals in that space. He also has his studio where he works there. So that's where that comes from. Here's another example of like the indirect use of the figure, where you have just these feet walking across the cobblestone here. So
Beautiful. And so the opening is tomorrow, correct? And
yes.
We posted again the link, so people have to sign up on Eventbrite to like find a time to come, so they aren't, so they can be social distant, and of course they have to wear masks inside.
Mm-hmm.
And then all of these items are for sale. Is that correct as well?
Correct.
Because it's always beautiful to look at art, but it's also beautiful to buy art. And I think it's amazing that they're 4x6, not just because that level of detail, but also obviously that's the size of a photo, right? Of a traditional, snapshot. But the amount of time and effort, and this is where, as a non-arts inclined person, I am always amazed when I hear from artists and what they're able to create it on such a small space here. I think it's probably more difficult. I don't know, is it more difficult than the larger, or it's just different?
Well, it's just a different experience. Usually when I do these small ones, I'm sitting, at a table, and I'm the kind of brushes that I would use, and of course the size of brushes I use would be different. The experience is much more intimate with the smaller scale piece. But I sometimes get flack, from people. It's like, well, why so small, Mel? They should be a little bit larger, And of course, I do work large sometimes too. Well, large for me is 4x6 feet.
Right.
There are a couple of works in the show. I mean, this one here is like 4 feet across. Izegbe wanted to have a couple of the somewhat larger pieces in the show. There's one over there on that wall that's 4x4 feet. But I do get the question, it's like, well, why so small? And I guess I would answer that in two ways. When I was in graduate school, I remember going to New York, and I would be in New York in an hour from Philadelphia, and I'd look at everything. I'd go to the museums, I'd go to contemporary galleries. I just look at everything I could possibly look at. And so the first time I ever saw Jan van Eyck, who's traditionally is known, his work is very, very small. I have to say I was really blown away. I was blown away by not only the detail, but I was also blown away at how the paintings, even though they were so small, they did not seem tight or stiff. They just seemed very, very, like he was very comfortable, with his own process. And I became really quite influenced by that work. The other thing I would say too is when you go to New York and you go through one gallery to the next, and you look at paintings, everything, I shouldn't say everything, but so many things can be so enormous I mean, in terms of their size. I mean, 6-foot paintings, 8 feet, 10 feet, 12 feet. They're just so huge.
And
And
bigger isn't
so,
always better, is what you're saying, right? I mean, it can,
well,
it's good to have diversity in size,
yes.
but having
So,
small ones
so,
is
so what
important.
I think is like, why always do what everybody else is doing, number one. And I hark back to graduate school, and one of my professors, we were in a group critique, and one student asked him, it's like, well, do you always have to be big? Does everything always have to be big? And his answer was, well, yes, you always should think big. You don't want to think big in terms of size, you have to think big in terms of quantity. So I thought, oh, I like that idea. So I just kept that in mind. So that, there's quite a few works, these small works here. I think there are about, I don't know, how many did I do? I'm trying to remember, about 28, I think, of these little pieces. So that's a pretty big, that's a lot of work for a solo exhibition, I think. Sometimes it's more, anywhere from like 12 to 16 larger pieces you'd have in a solo show. So I like that. I like the fact that you can think big in terms of number, as well.
That's some great advice too, is that bigger doesn't always have to mean physically. It can mean think big, but in different ways. So
Exactly.
thank you so much for taking the time to chat with us. And if people want to see more, of course, and I'm assuming you will also be there at the opening. So if they have questions for you, they could search you out in a social distant manner, of course. But I'm looking forward to seeing it myself. And thanks again for taking the time.
Oh, you're quite welcome. My pleasure.
One last question. Where can people find do you have a website yourself or Facebook or anything that you want them to, follow or call to action?
Well, I am on Facebook. Unfortunately, it's not specifically for my work, and I should have a website. For years, when I had a gallery representative in New York, I had a gallery rep in New York for 27 years, where I have just recently parted ways with that gallery. It was a long stint, 27 years.
Yeah.
And so because I had that gallery, I didn't really have a need for a website, but now I'm seriously thinking about a website. But they can find me personally on Facebook and, send a message. That would be good.
Yeah, and through Nnamdi Center, then also they can reach out to you about.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yep.
Thank you so much.
Cool. Oh,
Have
my
a great
pleasure.
day.
Nice meeting you.
And I hand it back to Izegbe.
Yes, ma'am. Well, thank you, Ms. Rosa.
Pretty cool, Zay. Thank you so much for allowing.
He has some beautiful
us to
things,
talk.
doesn't he? You see how you just walk in there?
And did you catch the whole, did you do that on purpose? The Rose Gallery, and his last name is Rosa, which
Yes.
means so. It's wonderful.
I did. I have this mission. See, I had this mission. The first mission was I just always wanted to show his work, right? See how it came to the light? The next one is I want to name the gallery after him, though. So I'm looking for a sponsor to do that. And then like up top, just always have his work up there. Be the Mel Rosa's gallery.
That's awesome.
Yep. Yeah.
Okay,
So
before we close out,
set the intention.
Yeah. I just want to give, well, I had one more question. I don't know, I am not an art collector, but I should start probably, right? I mean, you got to start somewhere. I feel like
definitely start.
It seems like only certain, very, very rich people do this. And in reality, everyone starts somewhere, and it's an important thing to also supporting local artists. And I'm guessing different types of art for different budgets as well, right? So what's kind of a range of pieces that are at the whether it's Mel's exhibit or some of the pieces that you showed earlier? Do you have a ballpark range on what?
Well, I would say we have things from $200 and up, and the up doesn't have a
right.
Yeah,
so that's really good to know. I mean, I would think, it would be a great if people are looking for birthday presents or, I mean, or, we have so much stuff that isn't really worth a lot, right? Or it's disposable, or it's, doesn't mean a lot, right? And especially when you're trying to think of whether it's what you get yourself for a birthday or a holiday, but maybe somebody else. I mean, I don't know, that's just a brainstorm for me. I'm already thinking,
Right.
what, racking your brain to find something who doesn't really need anything new, but this could be something, this is different than
Yeah.
getting another Google Home or something, or some
Right.
technology thing.
No, I'm totally with you on that. And you know what, Jeanette, you're making me think it may be good for us to reconnect, and maybe we'll do some sort of collector series so people can start understanding some of the nuances that go into collecting and buying art, and what does that mean,
Right. Well, I mean, even that,
Um,
like, what's the difference between buying art and collecting? I think I love that idea. Let's definitely circle back and have
yeah.
another conversation. But in the meantime, to wrap up this conversation, what's your call to action? What do where, people can certainly follow the Nnamdi Center on social media,
Yep. Facebook and Instagram.
Facebook and Instagram, and that's going to be getting even more robust now with Amber on the team.
Yes. I can't wait for
And
that webpage to get, woo!
yeah,
I can't wait for that to come out.
and people can sign up to come to the opening tomorrow.
They sure can. We do have a few spots that's still available.
And
Yeah.
then come see the exhibit in general, and that's still also through
To come
event.
see the exhibit in general, what we do is we will send out a vertical response notification. And then we also put all of our registrations on Eventbrite. So the kind of couple as a tracker system for us too.
Yeah,
Um, and
great.
so people can always look at Eventbrite, what's at the Nnamdi, and figure out what's there through those means as well.
Well, and also I'll do a little shout out. We've been doing a lot of virtual tours around all different types of topics. And this week, just on Tuesday, we did a virtual tour on Black art and artists in Detroit. So if people want to hear a little bit more about some of the art and artists that are doing things in Detroit, that's on the Detroit Experience Factory.
Well, that's excellent.
We link to that too, which is really great. But I think in general, what is a good call to action to say, find out like about your local artist, right? Support
Yeah.
local artists, buy local artists. And if you don't have, we know finances with lots of people during COVID are really, really strained right now.
Mhm.
But there's always the ability to share about the Nnamdi Center, share about the artists that you
Mhm.
find out about through them. And of course, I'll also end. Everyone's always like, people remind me, oh, what about Detroit Experience Factory, right? So you can
Right.
follow us at Detroit Experience Factory on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. We know Detroit is our handle. Also, the City Institute, and then I do these weekly conversations under just the hashtag Discuss Detroit. But they're also all available. Previous ones are available on the City Institute website as well. So thanks so much, Izegbe. We look forward to talking with you in the future. I hope that I freeze.
We're getting a little frozen there.
Okay. Well.
I think we got frozen.